Welcome to Tots News.
Tonight we'll have a story by Curtis Lamp on D-Day.
And then we'll have an exciting story by Jake Parker on Pearl Harbor.
Then we'll move to Tony Farnham and his mystery story.
Then we have an exciting story for you by Alyssa Stewart on Joseph Mengele.
We, along with the help of Great Britain and Canada, have launched a deadly marine assault on the northern beaches of France in an area called Normandy. This is easily the largest sea-to-land assault in history and is already being called D-Day.
Just last week, an amazing battle was fought on the beaches of Normandy. It's already the largest seaborne assault ever. The initial assault on the beaches from ships across the English Channel is codenamed Operation Neptune. Already, there have been 150,000 troops sent to the deadly beaches of northern France. One of the first waves of attack was the deployment of paratroopers the night before in an attempt to capture some smaller key locations before the main troops got there. These troops took key bridges and road crossings. We contributed over 15,000 of these airborne troops. While these troops were fighting in the night, the ships with troops designated to fight in the main marine assault were leaving the shores of Great Britain. They arrived around 6:30 a.m. on June 6th. The transport immediately began to deploy from the main ships and head towards the shore with thousands of troops. The fleet was made up of the navies of 8 different countries. It used over 1,200 warships and 4,100 transport vessels. These warships helped by bombarding the beaches before the transport ships got there with the soldiers. The main contributors in this assault were the U.S., Great Britain, and Canada. The U.S. attacked the beaches of Utah and Omaha. Great Britain attacked Gold and Sword beaches. Canada attacked Juno Beach. The least progress was made at Omaha Beach. It is said that within the first 10 minutes on Omaha Beach, all leadership was gone. All officers and sergeants had been killed and or wounded. Some initial supplies were destroyed by storms, but after more land was taken, around 9,000 tons of supplies were being dropped off every day. These landings may be the beginning of completely retaking France from Germany. This could prove to be a major turning point in the war. Reporting for Tots News, this is Curtis Lamp.
This just in, Japan has viciously attacked a U.S. naval base, Pearl Harbor. Jake Parker has the latest news.
We all remember the terrible act of violence that plunged us into World War II, but what most don't know are the real numbers. Things such as death toll and motives of the Japanese have consumed the minds of many American citizens. Although most may say this was just a random act of violence, facts and statistics will beg to differ. December 7, 1941, or as stated by President Roosevelt, a day that lives in infamy, was the day of the attack. As most know, this forced President Roosevelt to declare war on Japan. What we weren't expecting was for Germany and Italy to declare war on us. With the hearing of this news, manufacturers everywhere have been producing things such as tanks, ammunition, guns, and other things for the military by the hundreds of thousands. Pearl Harbor is located on the southern end of the island known as Oahu and stretches to around 22,000 acres. The original goal of the Japanese during their attack was to eliminate U.S. aircraft carriers named the Lexington, Enterprise, and the Saratoga. Fortunately for us, these carriers weren't pulled into port. Starting at around 6 a.m. and prompted by a U.S. embargo, the Japanese led off with 6 carriers and 423 planes. While the Japanese attacked through air and sea, the U.S. Navy fought for their lives. The United States were fooled by the Japanese in trusting false statements and believing the expressed behavior for peace by Japan. We had no idea the attack was coming, therefore we had no way to defend it. The issue of our Navy's common sense comes into question as well. Our vessels were aligned one by one to make them easier to supervise, but as we know, that wasn't the best idea. Japanese equipment were also tracked and dismissed on radar. Ships like the USS Arizona suffered the worst, however. The death toll for this one ship is now up to 1,100 men, and the numbers for death totals are still rising. While this attack is still in our minds, we still need to worry about the task at hand, World War II. This may not be as easy as it sounds, however. The Japanese crippled one of our strongest assets to our military while suffering little or no damage at all. Even though this may seem like a great obstacle to overcome, I still believe we can persevere and get through this tough time. Reporting for Todd's News, I'm Jake Parker.
I've got good news for all the veterans watching. A new act called the Servicemen's Readjustment Act has just been passed. The Servicemen's Readjustment Act, or as it is now being called, the GI Bill, gives financial aid to veterans. It will help to pay for their medical bills and also pay for a secondary education. Many veterans are already planning to use this benefit. This will help many men to complete their education and to get a successful job after military service. The medical benefits will be very useful to veterans in treating any injuries they have attained during service. They will also help to aid our veterans as they age. This bill will also provide assistance to any veteran who returns finding that he has no job. Unemployment benefits, including the payment of $20 a week for up to 52 weeks. Veterans are also assisted in home buying. Many of these benefits are to prevent some of the things that happened after World War I, such as veterans coming home to find that they have no jobs. This being said, the GI Bill will also provide assistance to veterans searching for a job and also provide basic job training. Tots has received news about a certified physician who joined the Nazi Party in 1937. This man is Joseph Mengele, a horrible doctor in German death camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. Alyssa Stewart will cover this unbelievable story in more detail. Over to you, Alyssa.
Joseph Mengele needs to pay for the things he has done to victims. I believe his experimenting on helpless camp inmates is absolutely gruesome, and he must be stopped. If it is not already demeaning enough to be forcefully admitted to a death camp, must the victims then be experimented upon by this madman? Mengele first started working at the death camp by meeting the incoming prisoners and deciding whether they were going to be sent straight to the gas chamber or if they were going to be forced into labor. He was easily feared, and some survivors of the camp stated he had a look that said, "I am the power." This indicated that he felt good about being in the position of power, able to control life and death. These qualities, in my opinion, are the perfect example of an evil man. Soon enough, he was replacing a doctor in Auschwitz-Birkenau. He used this as an opportunity to do research on twins, heredity, amputations, and dissections on prisoners of all ages. Open heart surgeries, amputation of limbs, and the sewing together of two people were all done without anesthesia. Strangely enough, all victims were treated with special privileges, such as being better fed and better housed than others, and they were safe from gas chambers. Although they had better than other victims for a while, they would soon die much more painful and degrading deaths. The most common type of people who were found in his experimenting lab was identical twins. More than 3,000 twins went to Mengele, and only about 100 pairs survived. He has a weird fascination with them. Mengele was simply a doctor who became mad because of the power that was given to him. His practices are extremely uncalled for and must be stopped by us somehow. Tots will update you on the Mengele story shortly. Back to the studio.
Germany has quickly been advancing through Europe as the war goes on. They have been using a specific method that has brought them success. Tony Coram has more on this.
The Germans have had the upper hand in the war in Europe so far, but this is not a coincidence. They have been using a tactic called blitzkrieg, which translates into English as lightning war. There are many elements that make this successful. The Germans surprise the enemy, which leaves them unprepared for an attack. They also base their attack on one concentrated area, using their whole military force on one section of the opposing military. They cripple the enemy with speed and power as they rush through onto their next objective. However, for this to be a success, the right terrain and the right weather need to be present. An unobstructed area with no natural barriers has to be present so the waves of attacks can get through and not be stopped. As you will see in my next demonstration, this method of warfare was extremely effective. For my demonstration, this represents a barrier set up by the Allied forces to protect valuable Allied territory, and my German military over here will be demonstrating how the Stuttgart works. First, the German Air Force goes in, primarily made up of Stuttgart, aka German dive bombers, and they just go in and just take out the barrier. barrier's gone. Secondly, the ground unit, known as the Panzer, goes in and cleans up. And next, to clean it up and take out the rest, is the good old infantry unit. And they break through the barrier and make their way into Allied territory to continue on through the war.
That's all from Tots News.